High Admiral Vexera of the Zalaxian surveillance fleet stood motionless before the quantum viewing field, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of the bridge displays. The vessel that had appeared at the edge of their sensor range defied everything she knew about spacecraft design and capabilities. "Run the analysis again," she commanded, her secondary breathing chambers expanding with tension. "There must be an error in the readings." "Confirmed for the third time, High Admiral," Second Monitor Kelvin replied, his neural tendrils pulsing with agitation. "The vessel is approximately 2 kilometers in length, but its mass, it barely registers, and the energy signatures are unlike anything in our database." The unknown ship hung against the backdrop of stars like a shadow given form. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an unsettling void in space. No visible propulsion systems, no conventional weapon ports, and yet it moved with impossible grace for its size. "Origin," Vexera demanded, her primary heart accelerating as the ship drew closer to their position. "That's the most improbable part," Kelvin hesitated, his scales shifting to a pale blue of disbelief. "The quantum signature traces back to Earth." The bridge fell silent. Earth, a civilization that, according to their last survey just 50 years ago, had barely managed to send primitive chemical rockets to their own moon. A species that still relied on fossil fuels and had yet to solve their own atmospheric crisis. "Impossible," Vexera whispered, but the evidence continued to stream across her neural interface. The strange vessel suddenly ceased all movement, coming to a complete stop without any detectable deceleration. The laws of physics themselves seemed to bend around it, space-time rippling like water disturbed by a stone. "They're initiating contact," announced First Communications Officer Zurel, her voice carrying notes of both fear and fascination. "The transmission method, it's utilizing quantum entanglement on a scale we thought theoretically impossible." The viewing field shimmered, and a figure appeared. The being was unmistakably human, but not like any human their historical records had shown. Their skin seemed to shift with patterns just below the surface, and their eyes held an inner light that spoke of extensive biological enhancement. "Greetings, Zalaxian surveillance fleet," the human spoke, their voice carrying perfectly through the quantum link. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Nightweaver. We come seeking diplomatic contact." Vexera's scales rippled with surprise. The human spoke perfect High Zalaxian, complete with the subtle harmonic undertones that carried emotional context. "How is this possible?" she found herself asking. "Your world was pre-spaceflight mere decades ago." Captain Chen's smile carried an edge of mystery. "High Admiral, what you knew of Earth was accurate, for its time. But necessity is the mother of invention, and humanity faced a necessity that drove us to evolve far faster than anyone might have predicted." The human captain's form shifted slightly, and with that movement, the Nightweaver's hull transformed. What had appeared as solid darkness became translucent, revealing layers of technology that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Our ship," Chen continued, "is not built, but grown. We discovered that the key to faster-than-light travel wasn't in breaking the laws of physics, but in learning to dance with them. The Nightweaver is a synthesis of organic and quantum technology, guided by an artificial consciousness that exists partially outside of normal spacetime." Vexera's scientific training warred with her disbelief. Everything she was seeing should have been impossible. And yet, why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue your development in isolation? Chen's expression grew serious. "Because what drove our rapid advancement is approaching your territories as well. We detected them 3 Earth years ago, the Void Collective. They exist in the spaces between dimensions, consuming civilizations and adding their knowledge to their own. They've already taken 17 worlds in what you would call the Carina Arm." The temperature on the Zalaxian bridge seemed to drop several degrees. The Void Collective was supposed to be a myth, a horror story told to young ones about the dangers of uncontrolled technological advancement. "We've come to offer an alliance," Chen continued. Your civilization's mastery of quantum mathematics combined with our biological quantum integration could be the key to stopping them. But we must act quickly. Their scout ships have already begun prodding this sector. As if in response to Chen's words, the Nightweaver's hull pulsed with patterns of light that seemed to bend reality itself. We can share our technology with you, teach you how to grow ships that exist in harmony with space-time rather than fighting against it. But the choice must be yours. Vexera stood straighter, her scales shifting to the deep purple of decision. In all her cycles of service, she had never faced a moment like this. Everything she knew about technological progression, about the natural order of species development, had been upended in the span of a single conversation. But as she looked at the impossible ship and its equally impossible captain, she realized that perhaps this was exactly what her people needed, a reminder that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than they had imagined. "Captain Chen," she said, her voice carrying the formal harmonics of diplomatic acceptance, "I believe it's time for the Zalaxian High Council to learn some new sciences." The human's smile widened, and for a moment, Vexera could have sworn she saw the same mysterious patterns that adorned the Nightweaver's hull dancing beneath Chen's skin. "High Admiral," the captain replied, "I believe this is the beginning of a fascinating partnership." The stars seemed to shine a little brighter as the two ships hung in space, representatives of civilizations about to change the very nature of what was possible in the universe. The dance was about to begin, and none who witnessed it would ever be the same. The Zylaxian High Council chamber hummed with an energy that hadn't been felt in centuries. Hundreds of the Empire's most prominent scientists and military leaders gathered in a crystalline amphitheater, their scales shifting through a rainbow of colors as they watched the demonstration before them. In the center of the chamber, the holographic representation of the Nightweaver's quantum drive system rotated slowly, its complexity defying conventional understanding. Captain Chen stood beside it, her form seeming to shimmer slightly as the ship's quantum field interfaced with her neural enhancements. "The key breakthrough," Chen explained, her voice carrying through the chamber, "came when we stopped thinking of space-time as a barrier to be broken and started seeing it as a partner to dance with. Every particle in the universe exists in a state of quantum uncertainty until observed. We learned to maintain that state of uncertainty at a macroscopic level." The hologram shifted, showing the intricate biological quantum matrices that made up the Nightweaver's core. High Admiral Vexera watched from her position among the council members, her scales rippling with fascination as she recognized patterns that somehow merged organic growth with quantum mathematics. "Impossible," declared Chief Scientist Mircole, his scales flushing deep orange with academic outrage. "The energy requirements alone would be astronomical using conventional methods," Chen interrupted smoothly. "But that's where the biological component comes in. Dr. Harrison, if you would." A second human stepped forward, his skin marked with the same shifting patterns as Chen's but in different configurations. Dr. James Harrison, the Nightweaver's chief quantum biologist, raised his hands and the hologram transformed. "Living systems," Harrison explained, "are already quantum computers of extraordinary sophistication. Every cell in your body performs quantum calculations constantly, from photosynthesis to neural firing. We didn't invent new physics, we simply learned to scale up what nature had already perfected." The hologram now showed a living cell, but magnified to reveal the quantum processes occurring at the molecular level. The Zalaxian scientists leaned forward, their scales shifting to the pale blue of intense concentration. "The Nightweaver," Harrison continued, "isn't just a ship with biological components. It's a living entity that exists partially in quantum superposition. It doesn't need to overcome the energy requirements of faster-than-light travel because it never fully commits to a single position in spacetime." The demonstration was interrupted by a sudden alert. The chamber's security fields flared to life as a quantum surge rippled through local space. Captain Chen's expression hardened as she received data through her neural link. "They're here," she announced, her voice grave. A Void Collective scout ship just emerged from interdimensional space. The threat is no longer theoretical. The chamber erupted in a cascade of color as hundreds of Zelaxian scales shifted in response to the news. High Admiral Vexra rose from her seat, her voice cutting through the chaos. "How long do we have?" "The scout ship will report back to the main fleet," Chen replied, her skin patterns pulsing with tactical data. "Based on our previous encounters, we have perhaps 48 hours before they launch their first attack." "We haven't even begun to understand your technology," Mircole protested, his scales now a pale yellow of fear. "How can we possibly prepare defenses in that time?" "You don't need to understand everything," Harrison interjected, pulling up new holographic schematics. "We've prepared retrofit packages that can be applied to your existing ships. They won't achieve full bioquantum integration, but they'll allow your vessels to operate within our defensive network." The hologram showed Zelaxian warships being modified with organic-looking modules that pulsed with quantum energy. "These modules," Harrison explained, "will allow your ships to participate in what we call the quantum dance, a synchronized state of partial superposition that makes our fleet virtually impossible to target effectively." "And you're willing to just give us this technology?" asked Elder Council member Zixtal, her ancient scales shifting skeptically. "We're willing to share it because we must," Chen replied firmly. "The Void Collective doesn't just destroy civilizations, it absorbs them, adds their knowledge and capabilities to its own. Every world that falls makes them stronger. We either stand together or we fall separately." High Admiral Vexra moved to stand beside Chen, her scales shifting to the deep purple of decision. "How quickly can we begin the modifications?" Chen smiled, and for a moment, the patterns beneath her skin aligned perfectly with the quantum fluctuations visible in the hologram. The Nightweaver carried enough biomass to begin growing the modules as soon as we arrived. "The first batch will be ready within hours." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just come to warn them or to share technology. They had come prepared for immediate action. The Zelaxians were being offered a chance to leap centuries ahead in technological development, but there would be no time for careful study or cautious testing. "The Void Collective believes itself invincible because it operates beyond conventional physics," Chen continued. "But we will show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to find new ways of thinking, and to turn apparent weaknesses into unprecedented advantages." As if in response to her words, the Nightweaver's quantum field briefly became visible through the chamber's windows, its hull shifting through possibilities like a leaf dancing in the wind. The next 48 hours would determine not just the fate of two civilizations, but perhaps the future of life itself in this arm of the galaxy. The quantum dance was about to begin in earnest, and its melody would reshape the very fabric of space-time. Space twisted and fractured as the Void Collective emerged from between dimensions. Their ships, if they could be called that, were crystalline structures that seemed to leak darkness into reality itself. The combined human-Zelaxian fleet hung in formation around the Nightweaver, newly installed quantum modules pulsing in sync with the flagship's biorhythms. "Multiple dimensional breaches detected," announced the Nightweaver's quantum intelligence, its voice resonating through both ships' neural networks. "Calculating emergence patterns, they're using a tessellated attack formation we haven't encountered before." Captain Chen stood at her command interface, the patterns beneath her skin flowing like quicksilver as she processed tactical data. Beside her, High Admiral Vexra's scales shifted through combat patterns as she adapted to the strange sensations of the quantum enhancement modules. "Their ships," Vexra observed, "they're not just emerging from fold space. They're changing it somehow. The Void Collective doesn't just travel through space-time," Dr. Harrison explained from his position at the quantum biology station. "They corrupt it. Each of their ships acts as a focal point for dimensional decay." The enemy fleet continued to emerge, their crystalline forms arranging themselves in impossible geometric patterns that hurt the eye to look at. There were dozens of them now. their dark energy weapons charging with a power that threatened to tear holes in reality itself. All ships, Chen broadcasted across the fleet network, initiate quantum dance protocols. Remember your training. Don't try to predict their movements. Feel the flow of probability and let your ships ride it. The human Zalaxian fleet began to move in ways that defied conventional space combat doctrine. Instead of maintaining rigid formations, they flowed like schools of fish, each ship partially existing in multiple states at once thanks to their quantum enhancement modules. The Void Collective launched their first attack, beams of concentrated dimensional entropy that should have torn the Allied ships apart. But where their weapons struck, they found only quantum possibilities, never quite connecting with actual matter. By the first light, Vexra breathed, her scales shimmering with wonder as she watched her fleet dance through space in perfect harmony with the human vessels. We're actually holding them back. Don't celebrate yet, Chen cautioned, her expression grim. This is just their first wave. The collective adapts quickly. They'll analyze our defense patterns and... The warning came too late. One of the crystalline ships suddenly shifted its structure, its form becoming more organic, more fluid. The change rippled through the entire enemy fleet as they began to mimic the quantum uncertainty of the Allied ships. They're learning, Harrison announced, his hands dancing through holographic displays as he analyzed the changes. Their dimensional technology allows them to rewrite their own physical laws. They're trying to copy our quantum integration. A Zalaxian cruiser vanished in a burst of twisted spacetime as one of the adapted void ships scored a direct hit. Then another. The enemy was learning to predict their quantum dance patterns. All ships shift to secondary protocols, Chen commanded. Initiate biomimetic response patterns. Show them why copying isn't the same as understanding. The Nightweaver's hull suddenly erupted with new patterns, its quantum field becoming even more complex. The ship began to move in ways that seemed to ignore the very concept of linear time, its actions appearing to precede the events that caused them. What you're seeing, Harrison explained to a bewildered Vexra, is why we merged biological systems with quantum technology. The Void Collective can copy our techniques, but they can't replicate the fundamental unpredictability of life itself. The human ships led a new dance, one that drew upon patterns found in nature. The swirl of galaxies, the growth of crystals, the spread of forest fires. The Zalaxian vessels, guided by their quantum modules, followed suit. Where before they had moved like a school of fish, now they moved like a living ecosystem, each ship responding to changes that hadn't yet occurred. They're trying to predict our movements, Chen said, a fierce smile playing across her face. But you can't predict evolution. You can't calculate the exact path of a river or the precise pattern of tree branches. Life doesn't follow mathematical rules. It follows the logic of growth and adaptation. The Void Collective's attack faltered as their copied quantum patterns failed to match the organic complexity of the Allied fleet's movements. Their attempts to mimic life produced pale shadows, predictable patterns that the human and Zalaxian ships easily avoided. But victory was far from assured. The dimensional distortions were growing stronger, and more void ships were emerging every moment. The quantum dance was keeping them alive, but they couldn't hold out forever against superior numbers. High Admiral, Chen turned to Vexra, her skin patterns pulsing with urgent data. We need to take the offensive. Are your ships ready to attempt the Meridian maneuver? Vexra's scales shifted to the deep copper of concern. The Meridian maneuver was theoretical, a desperate gambit that would use the combined quantum fields of the entire fleet to create a cascading dimensional resonance. If it worked, it could disrupt the Void Collective's ability to maintain their presence in normal space. If it failed, it could tear apart the fabric of reality itself. My crews are ready, Vexra replied, her scales settling into the steady purple of resolve. We understood the risks when we accepted your modifications. Whatever comes next, we face it together. The Nightweaver's quantum field pulsed in acknowledgement as Chen began transmitting the coordination protocols to the fleet. They had one chance to prove that the combination of human ingenuity and Xylaxian precision could overcome even the most advanced dimensional technology. The real test of their alliance was about to begin. Time seemed to slow as the combined fleet moved into position for the Meridian maneuver. The void-collected ships hung in space like shards of broken reality, their crystalline forms now twisted with partial organic mutations as they continued their attempts to adapt to the Allies' tactics. All ships synchronize quantum fields, Captain Chen commanded, her voice carrying through the neural network that now linked every vessel in the fleet. Dr. Harrison, begin the resonance sequence. The quantum biologist's hands moved through the holographic controls with practiced precision, initiating primary sequence. Remember, everyone, this isn't about perfect coordination. It's about harmonic chaos. High Admiral Vexura watched as her fleet's quantum enhancement modules began pulsing in complex patterns, each ship contributing its own unique frequency to the growing symphony of quantum frequencies. The Nightweaver served as the conductor, its advanced bioquantum systems weaving the disparate energies into something entirely new. The Void Collective is responding, announced the Nightweaver's quantum intelligence. They're attempting to calculate the pattern and establish counter-resonance. Through the quantum link, Vexura could feel the enemy's presence, cold, mathematical, absolutely certain of its superiority. The collective had consumed countless civilizations, absorbed their knowledge, their technology, their very essence, but they had never encountered anything like this. Now, Chen ordered, her skin patterns blazing with command protocols. Execute Phase 1. The Allied fleet began to move in what appeared to be complete chaos. Each ship followed its own seemingly random course, their quantum fields fluctuating wildly. But beneath the apparent disorder lay a deeper pattern, one based not on mathematical precision, but on the fundamental uncertainties of life itself. They're trying to predict our movements, Harrison reported, his expression fierce with concentration. But they can't. The pattern is based on human brainwave activity during dream states, completely deterministic, yet inherently unpredictable. The Void ship's attempts to counter the maneuver faltered as their sophisticated prediction algorithms failed to grasp the underlying logic of the Allies' movements. Their responses became increasingly erratic, their partial organic adaptations working against their base programming. Phase 2, Chen commanded. All ships, initiate quantum cascade. The Nightweaver's hull began to glow with impossible colors as its quantum field expanded exponentially. The other ships followed suit, their fields merging and separating in patterns that mimicked the growth of neural networks. Space itself seemed to shiver as the combined quantum resonance built toward a critical threshold. The dimensional barrier is weakening, Harrison announced. The collected ships are losing their anchor points in normal space. But the enemy wasn't finished. The crystalline vessels began to merge, their forms flowing together into a massive structure that pulsed with dark energy. The dimensional distortions intensified as the collective prepared to unleash its full power. They're attempting to stabilize their presence by consolidating their mass, Chen explained to Vexura. It's exactly what we wanted them to do. All ships prepare for Phase 3. The consciousness override. This was the most dangerous part of the maneuver. The Allied fleet would link their quantum fields directly with the collective's neural network, using the enemy's own dimensional technology against them. Success would mean victory. Failure would mean the loss of not just their ships, but potentially their very consciousness to the void. My people are ready, Vexura declared, her scales shifting to the deep gold of absolute commitment. We understand the risks, Captain. Do it. Chen nodded, her own patterns aligning with the Nightweaver's quantum field. Dr. Harrison, initiate the final sequence. All ships, open your quantum barriers and prepare for consciousness sync. The space between the fleets became a storm of quantum possibilities as the Allied ships extended their fields toward the collective's merged form. The enemy's dark energy weapons fired, but the beams split and scattered, unable to find purchase in the quantum chaos. Contact in 3, 2, 1. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as the quantum fields made contact. Through the neural link, every crew member in the Allied fleet felt the cold touch of the collective's consciousness, ancient, vast, and utterly alien. But where the collective expected to find ordered minds ready for absorption, they instead encountered something unprecedented. The human consciousness, with its dreams and intuitions, its contradictions and creativity, merged with the precise, crystalline clarity of Zalaxian thought. The combination created a psychic resonance that the collective's logical systems couldn't process. Their network is destabilizing, Harrison shouted over the quantum link. The organic components we forced them to adapt are creating feedback loops in their base consciousness. The massive crystalline structure began to fracture, dark energy bleeding out into space as the collective lost its grip on physical reality. Their merged consciousness, unable to reconcile the chaos introduced by the Allied quantum fields, started to fragment. All ships, maintain the link, Chen commanded, her voice strained with effort. Show them what it truly means to be alive, to dream, to imagine, to create. Through the quantum network, every crew member, human and Zalaxian alike, shared their experiences, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. The collective, which had only known consumption and calculation, found itself drowning in an ocean of living thought. The crystalline structure shattered, its fragments twisting away into dimensional space as the collective retreated from a form of attack it had never imagined possible. They had come expecting to find primitive beings to absorb, only to encounter a defense based on the one thing they couldn't duplicate: the inherent uncertainty and creativity of living minds. As the quantum storm subsided, the Allied fleet hung victorious in space, their quantum fields slowly settling back into normal patterns. The Void Collective had been driven back, not by superior technology or firepower, but by the fundamental unpredictability of life itself. "They'll be back," Chen said softly, her skin patterns gradually returning to their baseline state. "But next time, they'll face a galaxy that knows how to fight them, not with logic and calculation, but with imagination and life." Vexra's scales shifted to the deep blue of profound understanding. Her people had always prided themselves on their scientific precision, their logical advancement. But today they had learned that the greatest advances come not from perfecting the known, but from embracing the unknown. The great crystalline spires of the Zalaxian High Council chamber gleamed with new light 3 cycles after the battle. Where once they had channeled pure quantum energy, now they pulsed with the organic patterns of human bioquantum technology, a visible symbol of how much had changed in so short a time. Captain Chen stood before the assembled council, her uniform now bearing both Earth and Zalaxian insignia. The patterns beneath her skin flowed in harmony with the chamber's new rhythms as she delivered her report. "The Void Collective has withdrawn from this sector of space," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "Our long-range quantum sensors detect them regrouping near the galactic core, likely attempting to understand their defeat." High Admiral Vexra, her scales now permanently altered by exposure to the quantum fields during the battle, moved to stand beside Chen. "But they will return," she added, her voice carrying not fear, but determination. "Yes," Chen agreed, "but when they do, they'll find a very different galaxy waiting for them. Dr. Harrison, please show them." The quantum biologist stepped forward, activating a holographic display that filled the chamber center. It showed the combined human Zalaxian shipyards orbiting the system's outer planets. New vessels were taking shape there, but they were unlike anything either civilization had created before. "These are the first of what we're calling the synthesis-class ships," Harrison explained. "They represent a true merger of human bioquantum engineering and Zalaxian crystalline technology. Each vessel is essentially a living ecosystem, capable of evolution and adaptation in real time." The display zoomed in on one of the growing ships. Its hull was a seamless blend of crystalline structures and organic forms, quantum energy flowing through it like blood through veins. The ship's very structure seemed to breathe, each movement perfectly aligned with the quantum fluctuations of spacetime itself. But the ships are only the beginning, Chen continued. What we achieved during the battle, the merging of human and Zalaxian consciousness through the quantum network, has implications far beyond military applications. Elder Council member Zixtal, who had been among the first to support the alliance, leaned forward. "You speak of the dreams," she said, her ancient scales shifting with excitement. Chen nodded. Since the battle, both humans and Zalaxians have reported sharing dreams, accessing memories not their own, experiencing life through each other's perspectives. The quantum link we established didn't just defeat the collective, it began a process of genuine synthesis between our species. The chamber filled with murmurs as council members' scales shifted through patterns of wonder and uncertainty. The implications were staggering. Two species, separated by vast gulfs of evolution and experience, were beginning to share consciousness itself. "We're establishing joint research facilities on Earth and Zalaxia Prime," Harrison added. "The quantum network that saved us from the collective could be the key to understanding consciousness itself. Imagine the possibilities for learning, for growth, for understanding across all sentient species." High Admiral Vexra's scales shifted to the deep purple of decision. "The old ones among my people speak of a time before we became focused on pure logic and mathematical precision. They talk of dreams and visions, of connecting with the quantum field of reality itself. Perhaps in helping us remember how to dream, humanity has given us back something we didn't even know we had lost." "And in return," Chen replied, "your people have shown us how to channel our chaos, how to find patterns in our uncertainty. Apart, we were vulnerable to the collective's attack. Together, we're becoming something entirely new." The holographic display shifted again, showing the locations of other spacefaring civilizations in their sector of the galaxy. Many had already sent representatives, eager to learn about the technology and methods that had driven back the Void Collective. "We're establishing a network of quantum relay stations," Harrison explained. "Any civilization that wishes to join the Alliance will receive the basic technology for quantum enhancement modules. But more importantly, they'll have the opportunity to add their own consciousness, their own dreams and ways of thinking, to the growing network. The Void Collective believes itself invincible because it can absorb and analyze any technology it encounters," Chen said. "But we've proven that the true strength of living beings lies not in our technology, but in our ability to connect, to dream, to imagine possibilities that pure logic could never conceive." As if in response to her words, the quantum field that now permanently surrounded Earth ship Nightweaver pulsed with new patterns, its bioquantum systems having evolved yet again in response to its crew's growing connection with their Zalaxian allies. "We don't know what we're becoming," Vexra admitted, her scales shifting through complex patterns of emotion that would have been impossible for her species before their exposure to human consciousness. "But perhaps that uncertainty is our greatest strength." The chamber's crystalline spires seemed to sing as the quantum field rippled through them, carrying echoes of human dreams and Zalaxian thoughts in equal measure. The synthesis of their civilizations was just beginning, but already it was clear that neither species would remain unchanged by the encounter. In the space above their worlds, the new ships continued to grow, each one a testament to what could be achieved when the precision of crystal met the chaos of life, when logic danced with dreams, and when two species dared to imagine a future beyond the boundaries of their separate pasts. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging that a new form of life was taking its first steps into the cosmic dance. The Void Collective would return, but when they did, they would find not two separate civilizations waiting for them, but something entirely new, a synthesis of life and logic, of chaos and order, of dreams and reality. The dawn of unity had begun, and its light would transform the galaxy forever.